Well, let's bring in NewsNation political editor Chris Stirewalt now for a little bit more analysis here. Chris, thank you for being with us. Stale ideas and faded names of the past. Direct quotes there. Is that a direct knock on our former president?
Whatever could she mean? And this is, interestingly, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, governor of Arkansas, had made a similar allusion when she was taking a shot at Joe Biden in her Republican rebuttal after his State of the Union address. This narrative about lumping together Trump and Biden, old and of a previous vintage, is an effective message for younger leaders. Certainly one of the common things that we see in polling, one of the common things that we hear from focus groups all around the country is the age of Trump and Biden has become a serious factor. And if Haley can lump Trump together with Biden, it gets harder for Trump to make the case.
Yeah, I mean, the age thing, certainly does resonate with so many Americans. But Chris, Haley has such strong past connections to the former president. She's now obviously, attempting to separate herself. But how will that work in what could really be a very crowded primary runoff eventually?
Well, and it will get a lot more crowded starting now because the very successful launch that Haley had today, it's had a good crowd, good turnout, looked good, well choreographed, looked like a professional campaign. This will be a cue to other. And right now, let's face it, you've got two tiers. You've got Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis on one tier, and then you've got everybody else. And for those people who want to distinguish themselves, getting in early has its disadvantages, right? When something's on the shelf for too long, voters can get tired of it. But it gives you an opportunity to get what they call earned media. You get that attention, and you get it while it's less crowded. So obviously her goal here is to differentiate herself and try to get this lane before similar candidates like Mike Pence, like Mike Pompeo, get in the race.
Well, speaking of differentiating herself, Chris, what does she have working to her advantage? I mean, what makes her stand out?
Well, look, she was a very successful governor in South Carolina, which, as it escapes no one's attention, is a very important early swing state. She was popular there, and she was widely regarded as having done a good job. She also managed to get through the Trump administration with her reputation intact. She served as the administration's ambassador to the United Nations and didn't run afoul either of Trump very often or of the standard conservative foreign policy, peace through strength kind of Reaganite foreign policy that is still very popular in the Republican Party. The challenge for Haley is that when she tried to separate herself from Trump after she left office, she oversteered in both directions a little bit and seemed to contradict herself. As Trump comes after her and as he attacks her, we're going to see whether or not she can find a comfortable place to land in which she can differentiate herself without alienating every Trump supporter.
And before we let you go, Chris, I mean, not to focus on the negative, but what are some of the things that Trump is likely to come after her for? I mean, what are some of the, we talked about advantages, disadvantages, what are some things that may work against her?
Well, she is a very traditionally conservative person. She is of the kind of vintage of, speaking of vintages, the kind of vintage of conservatism that would be associated with Ronald Reagan, that would be associated with that part of the Republican Party for a long time. And that's not what Donald Trump's voters support. They're much more interventionist at home and much less interventionist abroad. It is a more populist, less small c conservative approach to government, and she is definitely part of that. So Trump will try to attach her to the Bushes, try to attach her to that old mode of the Republican Party to try to say that she is not a friend of the populace, not a friend of the blue-collar voters who Donald Trump helped attract to the Republican Party.
All right. Chris Stirewalt, we thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.